Hello everyone, Envoy of Eve here, and today I've got my fourth Forge Tips video for you. And just like my third one, I've combined several different lessons into one video in an effort to save time, because these are taking forever to make. So today I've combined several different lessons that we're going to go over in this video. And our first one, I'm going to just go ahead and get right to the point here. Our first lesson is flooring. So you've got your key ideas and your location, and for this entire lesson that I'm doing, all the Forge lessons, we're going to be building an inverse symmetric map. We're going to be building it in the quarry because that's an excellent place to forge anything. First things first, you're going to need a floor. Now there's a couple options available to you. Do you want to use the one Forge World is providing, or would you want to create a more controlled environment for that? Because for me, the floor in the quarry really doesn't seem perfectly fair. There's slight height advantages that some players may see as asymmetric instead of symmetric. Excuse me. And it's also a little bit hard to work with if you're trying to even out bases and stuff like that. It gets a little bit harder to work with, so we're gonna build a floor. Now, we have another question. What are we gonna use for the floor? There's tons of options available to you. You could take large braces and building blocks, or maybe even the bottom of a large platform. But think outside the box. I mean, turn a bridge upside down and lay a bunch of them together and you have a floor. And remember, one thing I'm going to go ahead and tell you right off the bat is that the smaller the unit you are building with, the more control you are going to have over your map. So we're going to go with a nice compromise, because smaller units are going to require a lot more effort, obviously, and a lot more units. You have to pay attention to the amount of units you have available to you. You can only have 100 building blocks. So we're going to compromise between our budget, our limits on our units, the amount of effort it's going to take to build the map, and the amount of control we have over the map. If you wanted to just be really lazy, you could lay out Colosseum walls, and that would give you no problem at all. However, we're not going to be lazy. We're going to put some effort into our map. We're going to use 5x5 building blocks because it's a simple choice, it's a great compromise, and they're very easy to build with. I love 5x5s. So we're doing this to get rid of the quarry floor. So we're going to have to find a good height for our blocks. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of skip over a little bit here. 6.0 is the height that I found for 5x5s in the quarry. That's perfect height in the quarry for 5x5 blocks. It's just barely above the highest point in the quarry floor. So if you're going to cover the entire area of the floor with 5x5 blocks, we're even going to cover it out over the edge. And make sure you use your coordinates and match them up edge to edge. And I'm going to cut a little bit here to shorten up the video some. Elevation variance is extremely important to any map. Most maps in matchmaking have this because, well, it's extremely important. Elevation variance is where you have a large number of different heights throughout your entire map. And an easy way to achieve this is to simply raise certain parts of your floor and connect the difference with ramps and banks and stuff. And don't do this on every map, because it's not practical a lot of the times. It's only practical for small to mid-sized maps. On large maps, oh, no. But on most maps, if you use the right number of bridges, walkways, and just kind of think outside the box, you're going to accomplish that elevation variance without even thinking about it. Whenever you're using natural geography, you usually automatically have your elevation variance, because the floor of Forge World is almost never even. But on this map, we're simply going to raise certain sections of the floor in order to gain this variance in elevation. And the designs that I have laid out here call for the center and both of the bases to be the exact same height, with a little bit of a varying elevation in between. So keep in mind that this map has inverse symmetry, meaning that you're not going to draw a line down the exact middle, you're going to draw a line kind of like down the diagonal middle, sort of. I don't really know how to explain it very well. But this map's going to have inverse symmetry. So, if you raise one section of the floor, you need to raise the corresponding section on the other side of the map. Now, the bases in the center of the map are going to be the high points, so we need to raise those areas just a little bit. And I find that working in increments of 0.7 really works well in Forge World, which is ironic because Bungie's number is 7 anyway. We're going to raise the platforms here to 60.7. Now, if this were a larger map, you might be able to go on up and kind of almost like stair-step it from 60 to 60.7 to 61.4. But in this map, we're not going to go any higher than 60.7 with our basic floor. So go ahead and raise your other sections of the floor wherever you feel like raising them. If you're building asymmetric, just throw them out there. If you're building symmetric, make sure you keep it symmetric. Our next lesson is going to be basic layout, and this is probably one of the most complicated ones. This is the one where I can't really teach you what to do. I finished raising sections of the floor, and I've added structures according to the plans that I had laid out for this. You might want to draw out your plans or use Google SketchUp, which is an extremely useful tool. There's just tons of things you can do, but you need to have these plans laid out, and then you need to kind of be aware of what objects you can use for these plans. These are the plans that I had laid out for this map. You'll see that there's 2 bases on each side, it's inverse symmetric, and then there's a nice little center structure. Each base is exactly the same, inverse of course. There's also side structures, but you'll notice how it seems rather barren, and that's because I haven't actually added any cover yet. You don't add cover until you're done with your basic layout. For now, you're just laying out the structures, making your map look similar to the designs you had planned for it. And this is symmetric, and it's all perfectly symmetric down to the degree. You need to make your maps like that as well. It's annoying, it's time-consuming, it takes a ton of patience, but you will eventually have the patience to do it, even if you don't have it now. Just force yourself to keep forging and take a break every couple hours. I can't really forge for 2 hours straight without having to go maybe play a game of matchmaking or some firefight or something. It's really difficult to sit there and forge all day. And just laying out these basic structures, doing the floor, and everything that you've seen so far took me a little while to get everything right. You're gonna have to pay special attention to each and every little inch of your map. For instance, these buildings, they were so annoying to get aligned right. These bridges were difficult to get aligned right. I had to play around with the bridges to get them to sit properly. And that's what you need to do. You need to figure out what buildings, what structures you're going to use. Try not to use a ton of pre-made structures. It's good to kind of create your own stuff. You see here I've created some boxes with the building blocks, and I've created a whole building with building blocks. Try to kind of, I really don't want to sound redundant, but think outside the box with your structures here. I've taken a triple room, flipped it on its side, and it's now my base. I've taken a pyramid and placed it into the ground, and it now provides some elevation variance inside the bases. And that's what you need to do. You need to constantly be thinking of ways you can manipulate these objects to get them to do what you want them to do. Now, as I've said, this is the most difficult lesson for me to teach you because I really don't know how to go about teaching you how to lay out your own designs because I didn't make your designs. But I will say, go back to the lesson Object Control and make sure you know all of your objects. For instance, here, I wanted a big ramp that you could get up a high point on. And at first I thought, well, maybe I can just use a large brace tilted on its side. That didn't work too well, so eventually I went with a sniper's nest. You'll notice here that I've also got decoration, a little bit of decoration in place. I just barely started that and then realized that I've got to film me placing it. So, we'll be covering decoration in the coming lessons, however. Now I want to talk about just this design just a little bit. I've used triple rooms, a pyramid, a ramp, some 5x5 building blocks, or 5x1, excuse me, and a staircase, and fit it all together nicely. The staircases are flipped upside down. The room triple is flipped on its side. The pyramid is covered in stuff. It just kind of almost acts as a backdrop, really. Just two ramps sticking out of the ground on either side. And you'll notice how it worked out rather nicely. If you try this with something else and it doesn't work, don't do it. So that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this video, for this lesson. I will guarantee you all I will have another lesson out at least by this Friday. So make sure you stay tuned and subscribe. Check out my channel, leave me a thumbs up, comment, tell me how I did. This is Envoy V signing out, and I'll see you Starside.